A topic that I want to dive into, and I wanted to touch on it for a little while, but Trisha on one of my comments says, I think we need to have a conversation right now about decentering men instead of continuing to harp on the Carly Russell situation. Let's use that situation as a way to jump off into speaking on more productive uses of our time. And when I say decentering men, I'm not talking about um, divorcing all men and just jumping up and creating whole communities of just women and girls. I'm not doing that. I'm talking about let's have a conversation on how we are going to have healthy balance where we are not fully enmeshed once we get into a relationship, because when you become fully enmeshed, that is when your life tends to fall apart if a relationship falls apart. And we don't want that. We want healthy coping mechanisms. This is an amazing graphic for what I mean about decentering men. And that is the reason why I say this is not about taking men out of the equation. It's about going from here, where your current life is completely centered around men, like everything you do, everything you wear, the jobs that you get or don't get, the goals that you go after or don't go after, buying a home or not, whatever. Instead of making them the orbit, you go from here in this circle to over here in that circle, where men are a part of your life, but not your full life. They're not the orbit of your existence. That way, if something were to happen, if the relationship breaks up, if if they cheat, if they pass away, your life is not does not fall apart. You still have the other things that make you you, how you exist with your family, how you exist with your career and your goals, your creativity, your gifts, that you don't just give it away simply because you get into a relationship. Ladies, black women, a lot of the times people like me get pushback because I don't simply take the time to just push um, marriage and relationships, because I want marriage and relationships to be healthy and balanced. Everything should be healthy and balanced. And I say this as a black feminist. And I do know that that is a trigger word for some people, because I like women to be creative and be individuals and have sovereignty over themselves. But this is just the start of this conversation. We're still talking about decentering men, but I want to talk about how we got to the point where women are like brought into this or bred into this. I'm going to start with religion. So this woman left this comment, and this comment goes perfectly with what I was planning on speaking on anyway. She said she grew up traditionalist, Pentecostalist, and here are some of the main tactics that they use: public ceremonies, purity rings, and ceremonies, only for the women and girls. Meanwhile, the males get to do whatever they want to. Number two, constant mentioning of the husband being your covering or headship. So men get to be the miniature little cult leaders in the home. Number three, courting in church arrangements of couples. Number four, public shaming in front of the church. Number five, discouraging financial independence among women. That is the reason why feminists and womanists and independent women and modern women get shunned and shamed so badly. Because if women are independent, then they can walk away from bad experiences or terrible relationships. Encouraging women to date down and humble themselves to show virtuousness. This is how even the poorest of men, the most unattractive of men, were able to still get women. And these days they are failing and flailing because women are able to opt out. Number seven, discouraging birth control or family planning. The average woman in our church had to have 5 to 10 children. As you know, that is decreasing dramatically, and birth control is on the rise. And that is another reason why some of these people are discouraging it. This is how we got to this point. Also, fairy tales. I just finished reading this book called Cinderella is Dead. It is fiction, but it's honestly pretty much how things are set up with bombarding us with fairy tales and religion. I'm gonna read a passage. So in this book, Prince Charming is king now, and he has set up all these rules for the kingdom. And here are some of the decrees. A minimum of one pristine copy of Cinderella will be kept in every household. The annual ball is a mandatory event. 3 trips are permitted, after which attendees are considered forfeit, the attendees being the women or girls. Participants in unlawful, unsanctioned unions will be considered a forfeit, so they can't marry outside of being chosen from the ball. All members of households in Marseille are required to designate one male to be the head of household. For their protection, women and children must be in permanent place of residence by the stroke of 8, so they have a curfew, and a copy of all laws must be displayed in the home. Like I said, I know that the reading from the book Cinderella is Dead is completely fictional, but it is definitely based in what people are going through these days. If you put it side by side with the comment that I did earlier, the public ceremonies, that's just like the ball that the girls are getting ready for, and everything is surrounding getting a guy. And you have to be chosen, because if you're not chosen, who's going to be the head of your household? And if you are a forfeit, as in talked about, Cinderella is Dead, the forfeit are the throwaway girls, basically. Now, it also says that they have a curfew. Let's not act like in religious times and in our society, women and girls were not made to come home at a certain time, because they were. And there is sanctions in the fictionalized world, but there are also sanctions or shunnings and shamings in our world today, where if you are living outside of these rules, you are outcast. The part where she talks about the courting and the church arrangements of couples, this goes perfectly with the Cinderella is Dead story, because these couples are arranged. Women and girls do not get to choose who they want. And it's always typically the older men that are choosing, because at this particular juncture, they actually have the money and the power to do so. And actually, the boys get left behind. There are a lot of leftover boys in the Cinderella is Dead story, and in religion, like the Mormons or other places where there are really strong male leaders. Basically, these fairy tales are a way of getting women to cope with these gilded cages that many women, especially if they're financially dependent on males, to cope with it, to cope with life. That is the reason why they discourage talking to women like me. They discourage independent women, and they want to squash the consistent speaking out on these types of things. But for that reason, I'm going to continue to share, and hopefully you guys will share more commentary, share your experiences, and share these stories. Jump in the comments, like, comment, share. Y'all have a good one.